Hey everyone, it's Katie. Welcome to our prenatal yoga class. So, before we get started, just a few things. I don't plan on using any specific props for our class today, but if you are used to sitting on a blanket or having some blocks handy, go ahead and grab those now before we get started. I know we will be doing triangle pose, so if you usually use a block, grab one. If you don't have blocks at home, you can always stack some books. And then once you've got your items and you've rolled out your mat, you're going to have a seat on your mat. While you're getting situated, I also want to remind you to really listen to your body today, right? In this moment, every day is different. So today, listen to the clues that your body gives you. Nothing should hurt, right? Intense sensations, okay, but really listen to what you need. And also, there's no judging, correct? Accept yourself just where you are in this moment, right? Acceptance. And then I think that's about it. Try to be in the moment as much as possible, but we're human. You're going to get distracted. And when you notice you've been distracted, just gently bring yourself back to your breath. It's no big deal. All right, now that you're seated, feel free to pop on some music right in the background, and then we'll start. So I want you to just close your eyes for a moment as you're sitting on your mat. Now, with your eyes closed, I'm just going to check in with ourselves. Do a head to toe scan and just notice how you're feeling today. And then from your physical body, shift your attention to how you're feeling mentally, right? The thoughts that have been running through your mind. I mean, there's no judgment at all. Whatever you're thinking, you're thinking. It's just noticing those thoughts and the nature of those thoughts. And lastly, notice how you're feeling emotionally. Whatever that answer is perfectly okay. Just starts with accepting, actually, starts with observing, right? And then we can move into acceptance of how we're feeling. And now that you've checked in with yourself, we're going to shift our focus to our breathing. So notice your breath here and what it's doing. And then I want you to sit as tall as you can, as long as you're still comfortable, right? That tailbone rooting down into the floor, the crown of the head lifting, shoulders soft and back, eyes soft. And then if you can, join me to bring your right hand to your heart and your left hand on your baby. Now feel if either of your hands move. And we're just going to add some words to our breath. So as your eyes are still closed and your hand is on your heart and your little one, I want you to inhale the feeling of calmness when you breathe in. Every time you inhale calmness. Add to that and exhale any tension. Okay, so we're inhaling calmness and exhaling tension as we nudge our breath a little deeper and a little deeper. Inhale calmness, exhale tension. You can let your hands gently fall into your lap. And then eyes can still be closed. Just gonna add some neck stretches. Make sure your cervical spine feels very tall. That maybe the chin is parallel to the floor. Nice long necks, and then gently let your right ear drop to your right shoulder. And go to the point where you feel a good stretch. It's not overdoing it, it's not underdoing it. It's your perfect spot. Ready? Lifting your head back on top. And now gently let the left ear drop down to the left shoulder. Make sure too that your left shoulder didn't rise up to meet your ear. That as your left ear melts down, so does your left shoulder. Not getting any tension out of the neck. Take your time, but next inhale lifts your head back on top of the spine. Your neck is still nice and tall, right? But now drop that chin straight to your chest and your heart. So you can feel the stretch in the back of the neck, maybe even into the upper back a little bit. And then as you're ready, lift your head back on top of your spine. Okay, guys, let's take our fingertips to the floor next to us. So you're gently touching the ground with your hands. You're still sitting nice and tall. I'm just going to do some little mountain breaths, I call them. So on the inhale breath, sweep your arms all the way up to the sky. Hands can stay shoulder width or palms could touch. And on the exhale, you're just going to drop your fingertips back down to the floor. So continue on with your breath. Inhaling, arms rise. And exhaling, fingertips melt to the floor. Keep it going at your own pace. Inhaling to lift, exhaling to lower as we warm up arms, shoulders, rib cage, waist. And we're also increasing that breath. So keep going, maybe one more. As you're ready and your fingertips melt to the ground for the last time, just relax and take a breath. And then keep those left fingertips planted into the floor, but inhale just the right arm up. So with the right arm up to the sky, draw your right shoulder down. We're going to side lean to the left, right? Pressing gently into that left hand as you lean over to the left, stretching through those right ribs. Let your body tell you how far to go. Don't overdo it, but get a nice stretch. Next inhale takes that right arm up, sit up nice and tall. Exhale, release the right arm to the ground. Here we go, right fingertips grounded. Inhale your left arm up. Then exhale, we're going to lean over to that right side, stretching again through the whole left side body. Even from armpit gets a stretch, the left hip. On the next inhale, lifting the arm up straight, and on the exhale, let it gently float to the floor. All right, and let's just throw in some shoulder circles just to make sure our shoulders are open. So take those shoulders forward, up, back, and down. Just roll those shoulders around. Get rid of some of that tension. Relax your shoulders. And then before we transition, we'll do one more seated pose here. Do some hip circles, that's all. So with a nice straight spine, right? Just roll your torso in a circle. Side, forward, side, back. So go ahead and keep circling. They can be small circles. They can be large circles. Kind of feel it out in your body, in your hips, and your back. And kind of feel what feels right. So when it feels natural, I'm going to have you switch directions of those circles. And now go the other way. Taking about one more circle, and then we'll come back to center. All right, and before we move, let's just check on our breath. Do we still have a deep breath? If not, let's get a hold of it now. Okay, and then we are going to switch and transition to hands and knees. So whatever is most comfortable, you're going to kind of climb over onto hands and knees on your mat. If you have sensitive wrists or knees, feel free to grab your blanket and pad under your joints. Okay, so line up those hands under those shoulders, those knees under those hips. I'm going to start with a good old cat-cow because it's so good for our spine. So on the inhale breath, you're going to let the baby kind of sink toward the floor, right? Let your belly dip, your tailbone and heart lift. And on the exhale, we're going to do the opposite, right? Gently pull your baby up like you're making a rainbow with your back. And drop your head and your tail. So do that a few more times, everyone. So inhale, letting the belly sink toward the floor, a little hammock for your baby. And then exhale, pull him or her up and in, and make that Halloween cat back. So let's do 3 more at your own pace. Inhaling to stretch the front of the spine and exhaling to stretch the back. And that should be about 3 breaths there. So finishing up, and when you're done, you're just going to come to regular hands and knees with a flat back. From here, stretch your right leg back behind you, but keep the right toes tucked underneath on that mat. So the ball of the foot is touching the floor. We're just going for a calf stretch in that right leg. So push through the heel as it's going to meet the floor behind you, even though it's not. I want you to feel that stretch all through that right calf. Mindful of the shoulders, that they're not creeping up toward the ears, right? Hugging baby in towards you. One more breath. And then gently pulling that right knee back under your right hip. Left leg sweeps back behind you, just straightens out with the toes tucked underneath. And again, a little activity to press that heel back behind you like you could dig it into the floor, even though it's not going to reach. And just breathe here into that left calf. These are great to do before bed, especially if you have those calf cramps that come get you in the middle of the night. So definitely stretch out those calves before you go to sleep. Okay, take your left knee under your left hip. You're back in your table position. So we're going to move into either a child or a modified child if you're in the 3rd trimester. So the knees are nice and wide, right? And then you're just going to sink your hips back. So you could stay up nice and tall on your hands there, or you could drop your elbows to the mat if you need a little extra space. If you're early on, of course, you can go all the way down into a wide knee child's pose. So just kind of relaxing, letting your forehead melt. If your forehead's not touching the ground, go ahead and grab a pillow or just stack your fists. And just feeling the surrender of the pose. And remembering that any time through class, if you don't feel like being in a posture, you can just come right back to child's pose. So taking one more deep breath here. Great, and now we're going to walk our hands back into that table. And then if you can, tuck your both sets of toes underneath, okay? And then we're just going to walk hands up so that you're coming into a kneel. Your chest is lifted with your toes tucked underneath. If this is excruciating for you, of course you don't have to do it, right? But if you're okay, we're just taking about 2 or 3 breaths here, not very long, to stretch out the bottoms of those feet and those toes. All right, ladies, and now it's time to come to stand. Some people have favorite ways. You can come into a down dog and come up to stand. You could just come into a reverse squat, just with your knees bent there, just stand up. Or grab onto something near you if you need the assistance. However you can, I want you to come to stand into your mountain pose. Okay, so you standing? Good. So finding Tadasana, mountain, right? Feet are parallel to each other. A little bit of engagement in the quads, right? In the legs, firmness. The tailbone's drawing down, baby gently hugging in. Shoulders soft. A little activity in the hands. Crown of the head lifting. So as you're in mountain, check your breath again. Is it still deep? Always coming back to the breath. We start with a little strengthener here. We come into Utkatasana chair pose. So as you're ready, with feet hip distance apart, you're just going to sink the hips back behind you a little bit, bending those knees. You're going to decide how deep you want your chair. Be aware of the low back though, everyone. Gentle tuck into the tail. to make sure you're filling out your low back and you're using your belly muscles to hug baby in towards you. Once you've got the legs and the torso, your hands can stay resting on your thighs. You can take them straight out in front of you, parallel to the ground. Or if you're feeling really active today, you can lift those arms overhead. Wherever you are, breathe deep. If you're able to breathe deep, even if the legs are humming, stay as long as you can. If your breath is shallow, constricted, it's not worth it, and just come back to your mountain. And take one more deep breath in your chair pose. All right, beautiful. Straighten those legs, come back to your mountain, and take a breath. Okay, now I can't see where you are on your mat, so I'm going to ask you, wherever you are, to face the long side of your mat and step your legs nice and wide. Okay, so with your legs nice and wide, basically moving into warrior two if you're familiar with it. If not, you're going to take your right toes to face the short edge of your mat, and then just turn in your left toes toward your body too slightly. From here, lift your arms parallel to the ground, even though your shoulders are soft. We're going to bend that right knee as we still put emphasis on that back leg too. That left leg is strong. That right knee should not pass your ankle. If it does, take it back a little bit or take a wider stance. Right, so drawing your tailbone down, gently pulling in your baby, breathing here in warrior two. Your gaze is over your right hand. You're breathing as deep as you can. All right, warriors, we're going to go ahead and let those arms fall down and unbend that right leg. So both legs are straight for a moment. We're not switching sides yet. We're going to go right into triangle. If you have a block that you'd like to use, go ahead and put it near that right foot. If not, that's okay. The legs will stay straight. It's very important not to lock those knees, right? So you'll still have those quadriceps engaged, or the slightest bend in the knee will also help keep your knees stable. So with legs straight, float those arms back up parallel to the ground. Good. Keeping in the same plane, we're going to reach those right fingers toward the front of that mat, toward that short edge. And now just tilt your chest to the right so that the right hand comes down, the left hand comes up. If you have a block, right hand can gently press into it. And a really important, hug baby in towards you. You've got to use your belly muscles a little bit so your back doesn't strain. Holding here in your triangle pose for just a couple more breaths. If this is too much for you, you come up, right? Not a big deal. All right, ready? Feel the strength in your legs, and then you're going to big inhale, lift all the way back up out of triangle pose. Perfect. Okay, let's do the other side. So just flip-flop your feet toward the left. Left toes toward the back edge of your mat. Right toes in a little bit. We're going to start in our warrior two, remember. So float those arms parallel and then bend that left knee. Peek to see if you can see that left big toe. If you can't, we got to open that left thigh a little bit more. So arms are parallel, you're gazing out to the left hand, you're holding your warrior two for just a couple more breaths. Nice. Everybody take a break. Relax your hands, relax that left knee, straightening the legs. Tune into your breath. Is it still there, nice and deep? Okay, from here, we are going to find our Trikonasana. So legs straight, arms float parallel again. Gaze out over those left fingertips as you reach those left fingers toward the wall in front of you and tilt your chest toward the left. Right, so we're stacking our shoulders, we're stacking our hips, we're gently pulling in the belly muscles. But most importantly, you're breathing nice and deep, and if you can't, come up out of triangle, it's not worth it. Right, triangles, ground through your feet, your legs, your abs, and then inhale yourself all the way back up. So we're going to heel toe or step your feet together wherever you are. We're going to do maybe 2 more standing postures before we come back to the mat. So let's move into tree pose. If your balance has been really crazy, go ahead and make sure there's a chair or a table or a wall near you. And then we'll start. So finding mountain pose first, right? Finding that same Tadasana that we usually have. And then we're just going to soften one knee and open the hip joint, right? So you can even keep that foot on the floor the whole time. But if you're ready and if you feel more stable, you can slide that foot up to rest on the other leg, just not right on the knee joint. So finding that balance in the legs and picking your arm position. You can be hands at heart, over your head, balancing like airplane wings. Find your tree and take a few more breaths here. All right, trees, we're going to start to come down nice and gentle if we can do it without falling. Coming back to your mountain pose, taking a breath and shaking it off, right? No expectations, no judgments. All right, let's bend the opposite knee now and gently open the hip. And just see how you're feeling. Does your body feel ready to balance? If so, then sure, go ahead and lift the foot a little higher on the leg. It's going to tell you, right, don't let your ego get in the way, especially in this pose. Listen to your joints, your muscles, your breath. All right, rewind out of your tree on this side. Now, when you get back out of tree, I want you to just step your feet a little wider than hip distance with toes out. We're just going to do a few hip circles here to get any tension out of that low back. So hands can be on your hips, hands can be on your baby. Just want you to circle those hips round and round, nice wide circles. Just do the movement that feels good to you. And then if you can, switch direction of your hip circles. All right, good job. So we're going to finish off those last hip circles, and I want you to come back to sit on your mat. So take a moment to get yourself seated and situated. Regular seat on your mat. Once you've come down to sit, I want you to sweep your hands behind your back. You can either interlace your fingers or go a little bit deeper by grasping onto your forearms with your hands, even all the way toward the elbow if you can. If you can grab elbows, you can do that as well. And then you're going to work your mountain pose as we're sitting here, right? So draw your tailbone down, lift the crown of your head, and feel baby pulling in towards you a little bit. And I just want you to focus on kind of breathing into your arms, right? So baby takes up so much of our space, especially in those later trimesters, that sometimes it's hard to feel that breath in the front ribs. So focus it into the back ribs. So on your breath in, feel like your lower ribs in the back body are pushing into your arms, right? On that inhale, and exhale, it just releases. So try that for a couple breaths here. And then just to even ourselves out, you tended to grasp your hands or your arms in a certain way. I want you to switch the grip. So go ahead and switch the grip behind you, but keep still those hands behind your back. And then again, breathing deep into those low back ribs. We're going to release those hands. Now that our shoulders have released a little bit. And I want you to basically bend the knees and take the soles of the feet together as the knees splay outward. So you're going to have a big diamond shape in front of you with your soles of the feet touching. And I don't want those heels too close in because that might aggravate the SI joint. So just keep those heels out, big diamond shape, and then check your posture in your spine. And then from here, we're going to do my favorite thing, those hip circles. So go ahead again for the third time and just circle those hips round and around. So good for back pain. So let's just do this one more time in that direction. And then when you're ready, you're going to switch it up and go the other way. Okay, let's come back to center, everyone. And then lastly, I want you to take your hands together. Oops, I'm sorry, I had your legs still in your diamond shape. Take those legs into a comfortable spot for you first, wherever that is. All right, and then from there, taking your hands together in like a prayer position, but sweeping them together or rubbing them together to make heat and friction. So kind of rub those hands together a couple more times, and then I want you to close your eyes and cup each hand over each eye so that you can feel the warmth of your hands over your eyes, giving your eyes kind of a little bit of rest and rejuvenation with that energy and that warmth. And then we're going to let the hands gently fall into the lap. It's time for relaxation. However, if there's a pose you didn't get, you want to squeeze in real quick while we move down to the mat, that's fine. A pigeon, a reclining pigeon, anything that you feel like you need. But if not, if you're ready to go, relax. We'll come onto our left side if we are over 20 weeks. Or if you're at home and you can prop yourself up at an angle and you want to lay down that way, that's fine too. So however you want to spend the next few minutes relaxing. So finishing your last movements and coming into that comfortable spot where you can completely let go for a few minutes. And now, since you are situated, eyes are closed, we're going to go ahead and use that breath that we used at the beginning of the class, the inhale calmness and exhale tension. So go ahead and just inhale a true sense of calmness into your whole body. And then exhale any residual tension. Do that a couple more times. Inhale calmness, exhale tension. Feel as though your whole body is completely soft and relaxed. All your organs working perfectly. Baby growing perfect and healthy. You are doing everything right. Be filled with that sense of peace and health. Focusing on all the good. And then as you two are lying here together, just take some moments to yourself to let everything go. stay here as long as you'd like.